I still remember the way the sun hit the dashboard that morning, almost blinding me through the windshield. It was one of those days where everything felt almost too perfect. The kind of perfection that feels staged, like a dream sequence, just before the nightmare hits. It was my grandma's 78th birthday. Her name is June. Sweet, warm-hearted, painfully generous. The kind of woman who still made pancakes from scratch and folded your laundry, even if you told her not to. She practically raised me. Mom worked 2 jobs growing up, and Dad. Well, Dad left before I could form a full memory of him. Grandma was the constant. So when Mom sent out a message in the family group chat, "Surprise birthday brunch for Grandma this Sunday, at the old farmhouse. Everyone be there by 11 a.m." I didn't think twice. Neither did my husband. Josh. He smiled when I read it out loud and said, "About time someone celebrated her properly." We were newly married, 6 months in, and he already knew how much Grandma June meant to me. She was more family to me than half the people who'd be at that party. Still, something about the tone of the message stuck in my head. Not the words, but the energy behind them. Usually, I'm the one organizing things for Grandma. And now suddenly, Mom and Aunt Lydia were in charge. Strange, they were never close to her. Respectful, sure, but warm. No. Josh noticed I was quiet during the drive. "What's going on in that head of yours?" he asked, his hand resting on my thigh. I gave a half smile, just thinking. Doesn't this whole party feel off? Off how? I don't know. It's just weird they planned it without telling me. Josh shrugged. Maybe they wanted to take the lead for once. You've done everything for her these past few years. Maybe they thought it was your turn to relax. I nodded, trying to push the anxiety aside. But it clung to me, like static after taking off a sweater. The farmhouse was my grandparents' old home, tucked away in the hills about 30 minutes out of town. Grandma hadn't lived there for years, not since Grandpa passed. She moved closer to me, in a smaller place, easier to manage. So why have the party there? That was the second thing that didn't make sense. We pulled into the long gravel driveway, and Josh parked at the edge of the field. I could already see a few cars lined up: my uncle's dusty red pickup, Lydia's SUV, and what looked like a rental van. Maybe catering. Just as I reached to open the car door, Josh stopped me. "Wait," he said, his voice lower than usual. "What?" He was looking straight ahead. His eyes narrowed. "I think something's wrong." I froze. "What do you mean?" He leaned forward, gripping the steering wheel. "Diana, look at that." He pointed toward the porch of the farmhouse. I followed his gaze. There was movement, not the happy kind. I saw my cousin Leo, not someone known for showing up early, hauling a box into the house. Then Aunt Lydia stepped out, talking to someone on her phone, glancing around like she didn't want to be seen. Josh turned to me. "When your mom said brunch, did she mention any moving trucks?" I blinked. "No. And why's your aunt unloading things into a house that's been empty for 5 years?" My heart dropped into my stomach. "Stay here," Josh said, undoing his seatbelt. I grabbed his arm. "Wait, let's just," but he was already out, moving quickly toward the edge of the driveway where he could get a better view without being seen. I sat there in the passenger seat, suddenly aware of how quiet everything was. No music. Laughter. No decorations. Just people going in and out like they were setting up a sale. A liquidation. I unlocked my phone and opened the group chat. Mom's single quotes as last message read, "Can't wait to see everyone. Grandma's going to be so surprised." Underneath it, a photo of the brunch spread. Bagels, fruit, cake. It looked staged. Like it was pulled off Pinterest. I heard the car door open again. Josh slid in beside me, his jaw tight. We need to get your grandma. Now what? Why? They're not here to throw a party, Diana. They're here to take the house. I stared at him, but this place hasn't even been in her name for years. He shook his head. No, I don't think they're taking this house. I think they're taking everything. We waited until the coast was clear, when Lydia went back inside and the others were out of sight, and then slipped in through the side gate. Josh kept close to me, eyes scanning every movement. The house was open, just like I remembered. Its same creaky steps, same chipped paint. But inside, it wasn't the cozy memory. It was a flurry of boxes, papers, and open drawers. And in the middle of it all, Grandma, sitting on a wooden stool in the kitchen, alone, looking confused. Gran. I rushed to her. Her face lit up when she saw me, but then her brows furrowed. Diana, what are you doing here? I thought the brunch was next week. My heart sank. It's today, I said, kneeling beside her. At least, that's what they told me. Josh stepped forward gently. Hi, Mrs. June. I'm Josh. Do you mind if I look around real quick? Grandma blinked at him, then smiled faintly. You married a polite one, didn't you? I nodded, but my mind was racing. Gran, who brought you here? Your mother, and Lydia. Said it'd be nice to see the house again. I didn't mind. They didn't tell you about a party. She looked puzzled. Party. That's when Josh returned, holding up a folder. Diana, They've got her financials, her will, copies of her ID. My blood ran cold. What? He flipped the folder open. Power of attorney forms. New ones, dated last week, with your mom's name on them. I couldn't breathe. Are they real? They're notarized, but something's off. Look at this. He pointed to a signature line. This isn't your grandma's handwriting. Grandma squinted at it. That's not how I sign my name. Then they forged it. The room tilted. I wanted to storm through that house and scream. I wanted to grab Lydia by the collar and demand answers. But Josh stopped me. Wait, he said. If they realize we know, they'll cover their tracks. We need proof. So we did what any sane, suspicious couple would do. We played along. I hugged Grandma tightly and said loudly, Happy birthday, Gran. Everyone's waiting for you out back. Josh caught on instantly. We parked at the bottom of the hill. Thought we'd make a grand entrance with you. Grandma giggled, a little unsure, but she trusted me. All right then. Lead the way. Birthday escort. We walked her out like nothing was wrong. As we neared the car, Josh turned to me and whispered, Call your lawyer friend. Tell him to be ready. This isn't just family drama. This is criminal. I nodded, adrenaline pulsing in my ears, as I helped Grandma into the back seat. I glanced over my shoulder. On the porch, I saw my mother, watching us, smiling. But it wasn't the kind of smile I remembered from childhood birthdays or bedtime stories. It was a smile I didn't recognize. A smile that chilled me to the bone. We drove in silence for at least 5 minutes. The hum of the tires on the road was the only sound between us. I could see Josh checking the rearview mirror constantly, his jaw clenched, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Grandma sat in the backseat, quiet but alert, her eyes darting between me and the window. She knew something was wrong, even if she hadn't said it yet. I was still holding the folder Josh had grabbed from the kitchen drawer. My heart thudded louder with every page I flipped through. power of attorney, transfer of property, banking documents, and all of them stamped, signed, and suspicious. "I didn't sign these," Grandma said quietly from the back seat, as if she'd read my thoughts. I turned around to face her. "You're sure, Gran?" She looked right at me. "I may be old, but I'm not stupid, Diana. I know how I sign my name." Josh glanced at me. "We're taking her back to our place. Just for today. We'll say she got tired at the party." I nodded, but my mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Was this just a one-time betrayal, or had it been building for years? How many times had my mother smiled at Grandma while scheming behind her back? How many times had I missed the signs? At home, Josh made tea while I helped Grandma settle into the guest room. She didn't say much. I could tell she was processing, trying to remember conversations, actions, maybe even moments she brushed off as harmless. I sat beside her and held her hand. "Do you trust me, Gran?" She squeezed my fingers. "Of course I do, sweetheart." "Then, I need to ask you something serious. And I need you to really think." She nodded. "Have you given anyone access to your bank accounts recently? Any new documents you've signed? Anything unusual?" She blinked. "I did go to the bank with your mother last month. She said it was to add me to a new healthcare savings account. She said it'd make things easier." My throat tightened. "Do you remember signing anything?" "A few papers. Small font. She said it was just permission stuff." Josh walked in with the tea. He heard the last part and set the cups down quietly. "I think they forged more than just a signature," he said. "They probably used that moment to get access to more than she realized." I looked back at the folder. "Gran," I said, "do you remember this document?" I held up a page with a notary stamp and a signature. She leaned closer. "That's not my signature. And that's not even the bank branch I use." I looked at Josh. "Okay," he said. "We need legal help, now." I called Jordan, my college friend turned corporate attorney, and explained everything. She was sharp, focused, and didn't ask unnecessary questions. She asked me to email the scanned documents. 10 minutes later, she called back. "Diana, I don't want to panic you," she said carefully. "But if your grandmother's assets have been transferred based on these documents, they may already be out of her control." "What do you mean?" "The bank authorization form you sent me. That gives full access to her checking and savings. The power of attorney is broad. It includes medical and financial decisions. If that was accepted by her banks or doctors, they could have done anything in her name." I felt like the floor had dropped beneath me. Josh stepped closer, listening. Jordan continued. "We can start with a legal injunction. If we can prove the signature's fake, we can pause everything. But you'll need to file fast, and be ready for pushback from my family." Jordan paused. "Yes, especially if they've already spent anything." My stomach turned. I ended the call and turned to Grandma. "They've been planning this for months, maybe longer." She was quiet for a while, then said something I wasn't expecting. I wondered if this day would come. "What?" She looked down at her tea. "Your mother and I. We were never the same after your father left." She blamed me for not trying harder, for being soft. She always said I had too much compassion and not enough sense. I didn't know what to say. She changed after that, stopped calling as often, only showed up when something needed fixing. But I never thought. Her voice cracked. "I never thought she'd do something like this." Josh sat on the edge of the couch. "We're going to fix it, Mrs. June. I promise you." Grandma gave him a faint smile. "You can call me Gran, dear." I think you've earned it. The next morning, it started. My phone buzzed, nonstop. Mom, where are you, Lydia? Grandma just disappeared. That's not okay. Uncle Joe, what the hell is going on, Diana? I didn't reply. Josh and I were already heading to Jordan's office downtown. She met us in the lobby with a stack of papers and a stern look. We're filing today. I've arranged for an emergency notary to verify your grandmother's handwriting. We'll get a statement under oath that she never signed these. Grandma nodded bravely. Let's do it. Jordan walked us through the affidavits, the timeline, the expected responses. She even anticipated that my mother would try to manipulate the narrative, paint me as the overprotective granddaughter, or worse, the unstable one. I'd heard that word thrown around before, by my mother herself. In family arguments, she always wanted to win. She's emotional. She's dramatic. She's obsessed with Grandma. Now I saw it for what it was. Groundwork for gaslighting. She's going to fight back hard, I said quietly. Josh took my hand. Then we'll fight harder. By evening, we had filed the initial paperwork, and just as Jordan predicted, we received a response within hours. A cease and desist letter from my mother's attorney, claiming undue influence, harassment, and false accusations. I stared at the email, my hands shaking. They're accusing me, I said aloud, of manipulating Grandma. Josh walked over and read it. They're scared, he said. That's what this is. A deflection. They're trying to flip the script before it even starts. They're trying to make you look like the thief. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Then my phone rang. It was Mom. Josh stared at it. You don't have to answer. I want to. I answered. Her voice was calm, too calm. Diana, what is this? You know exactly what it is. A pause. You've always been dramatic. But dragging lawyers into family matters, that's low, even for you. You tried to steal from Grandma. I tried to help her. No, you tried to erase her. And you got caught. You think you know everything. You think your husband has you all figured out. Let me tell you something, Diana, you're a child playing with matches, and you're about to burn everything down, including yourself. I didn't say anything. Then she added, and don't be so sure Grandma remembers everything the way you do. Click. The call ended, and the war had officially begun. Over the next 3 days, everything accelerated. Jordan filed motions. We provided video recordings of Grandma confirming she didn't sign anything. Josh called in a friend from his firm to help trace financial transfers. We uncovered that a significant portion of Grandma's retirement fund had already been moved to a shell account, one tied to a company registered under Aunt Lydia's name. We even got access to security footage from the bank branch, where the documents were allegedly signed. The footage showed Grandma sitting quietly while Lydia stood beside her, talking to the teller. Grandma never even touched the pen. It was damning, but it wasn't enough. We needed to catch them. Admitting it, so we set a trap. We told my mom I wanted to make peace. Josh and I invited her over for dinner. Just her. No lawyers. She agreed. Too quickly. That night, I wore a wire. Jordan coached me beforehand. Josh set up recording devices. Grandma stayed in her room, safe and out of sight, when Mom arrived. She smiled like nothing had happened. Your place looks nice, she said, setting down a bottle of wine. I nodded, trying to keep my hands from shaking. I wanted to talk, I said, about Grandma. She raised an eyebrow. Really? Yes. I've been thinking maybe I overreacted. Maybe I let my emotions get the better of me. She sat down, curious. Go on. I leaned forward. If we can just undo the paperwork, give everything back to Grandma, maybe we can avoid court. She smirked. Undo? Diana, you're not undoing anything. You think a few signatures mean something now. It's done. The money's moved. The forms are legal. Lydia made sure of that. My heart pounded. You just got emotional. Again. I nodded slowly. Maybe you're right. And then I smiled. Because I knew we had everything on tape. The moment my mother left our house that night, Josh handed the recording over to Jordan. I watched them speak in hushed voices near the doorway, her face unreadable at first. Then a slow, dangerous smile spread across her lips. This, Jordan whispered, holding up the tiny recorder like it was a loaded weapon, is exactly what we needed. I sat frozen on the couch, the weight of the evening finally sinking in. My body had been running on adrenaline, but now my hands trembled. My breath uneven. My mother, my own mother, had sat across from me, casually confirmed the theft, and sipped wine like we were catching up after a long week. There was no remorse in her voice, no guilt in her eyes, just confidence. Pride, even. It chilled me in ways I can't fully describe. She meant to erase her, I said quietly. My grandmother, her own mother, Josh, sat beside me. Not just erase her, replace her with whatever dollar value she thought she was worth. Jordan, pacing, had already started composing a summary of the recording. We'll file the transcript first thing in the morning. We may even request a temporary freeze on your mother's and Lydia's accounts. Especially if we show the money was moved illegally. Can they go to jail for this? Jordan hesitated. If the court sees this as fraud, financial abuse, and forgery, yes, it's very possible. I nodded slowly, and for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something strange. Power. Not revenge, not pride, just a quiet, shaking sense of control. Like maybe we were getting ahead. But the storm wasn't done yet. The next day was a blur of legal filings and interviews. Josh's friend from the financial compliance team traced more wire transfers. We learned that a chunk of Grandma's retirement savings had been moved offshore to an account under a corporation registered in Belize. That name, LJ Holdings, Lydia, and Janet, my aunt and mother. Partners in crime. They were laundering her money. It wasn't just elder abuse anymore. This was fraud. International fraud. We presented it all to the judge during the emergency hearing. The forged signatures, the manipulated bank footage, the audio recording of my mother's confession, and the financial trail. The courtroom was quiet as Jordan laid it all out. I sat with Grandma on one side and Josh on the other. My heart felt like it was about to crack open. I wasn't just scared of what they'd done. I was scared of what would happen if they got away with it. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and a steel voice, listened intently. And then, finally, she said the words we'd been waiting to hear. Temporary injunction granted. All financial transfers are to be reversed. All power of attorney documents are to be declared invalid pending full investigation, and an independent forensic review will be conducted on all related accounts. Additionally, this court orders a protective hold on Mrs. June's assets, including physical property and financial accounts. My body slumped in relief. We'd done it. We stopped them. For now, but stopping them didn't mean they'd give up. Quietly. The next morning, I woke to find my phone buzzing non-stop. Voicemails, texts, DMs. They came in waves, some from distant relatives who didn't know the full story and were concerned. Others, from people I barely knew, telling me I should be ashamed. But then came the ones that hit the hardest. From my mother. "You've ruined this family. You always had a flair for drama, but this is cruelty. She would have given it to us anyway." And then one that made me stop breathing. "We never wanted her to suffer. We just wanted her out of the way." I stared at the screen. That last message wasn't careless. It was deliberate. Cold. She knew exactly what she was doing. Josh saw the look on my face and snatched the phone. He read it, his jaw twitching. "She's escalating. I think she's unraveling." We showed the message to Jordan, and she was stunned. "This proves intent," she said. "It's evidence of motive, not just opportunity." And then she looked up at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen before. "Diana, we're no longer just fighting a family squabble. We're fighting people who believed they were entitled to erase a life, who used love and blood as a cover for greed. And when people like that feel cornered, they can lash out. Do you think we're in danger?" Jordan hesitated. "I think you need to be very careful." That evening, Grandma finally broke down. She'd been so calm through everything, like a rock in the middle of the ocean. But as I helped her prepare for bed, she sat down on the edge of the mattress and began to cry softly. "I can't believe she did this to me." I sat beside her, gently rubbing her back. "I gave her everything," she whispered. "I sold my jewelry to pay her tuition. I worked double shifts when she wanted dance lessons. I even let her move back in with me when she got divorced. She used to be sweet, Diana. I swear to you, she did. She used to pick me flowers when she was little. She'd braid my hair. And now she looks at me like I'm a burden. Like I'm a wallet she's trying to empty before I'm gone." My chest ached as I held her. "You are not a burden. And you are not alone." "She always said I was weak," Grandma whispered. "No, you were kind. And kind people don't always see evil coming." But I was done being blindsided. The next day, we filed a criminal report. The police opened a case for elder financial abuse. And that same afternoon, we received a tip from Jordan's paralegal. One of Lydia's former assistants had come forward with an email. It was from 3 months ago, Lydia, to Janet. "If we time it right, we can move the accounts before she even notices. She's losing her memory anyway." That single line changed everything, because Grandma wasn't losing her memory. She wasn't slipping into dementia. She was sharp, thoughtful, still full of stories and songs and half-burnt cookies. They had lied. To the bank, to the lawyer, to the notary. They faked doctor's notes. That assistant, thankfully, agreed to testify. And just like that, their careful castle of lies began to crumble. But just when I thought it was over, something happened I wasn't prepared for. Dotch came home with a grim look on his face. "I got a call from my boss," he said. "Someone's been making anonymous complaints to the firm. Said I'm involved in a fraud case." "What?" "They're saying I manipulated Grandma to steal money through you. That we're both trying to cover it up by framing your mother and aunt." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Who would?" I stopped. "No. I know exactly who." Josh nodded. "It's retaliation. They're trying to discredit us." And suddenly, I realized, it wasn't enough for them to fail. They needed someone to blame. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake thinking about how close we had come to losing everything, and not just money, not just property, but the legacy of the one woman in our family who had always put others first. The woman who had held us all together. When we were fractured and tired and angry, they had tried to steal her. History, erase her worth, turn her love into liability. But they failed, because she had me, and now I was going to make sure they never touched her life again. The courtroom was packed. Grandma sat beside me, in a soft blue dress, the same one she wore to my graduation years ago. She had insisted on dressing herself that morning. I had offered to help, but she shook her head and said, "No, not today." Today, I looked them in the eye. Josh was on my other side, his fingers intertwined with mine under the table. His suspension from work was still under review. But his boss had called the night before and said, "Whatever's going on, Josh, just keep your head up. We're watching closely." Jordan stood in front of us, polished and prepared, with folders stacked like weapons. Across the courtroom, my mother and Aunt Lydia sat with their lawyer, a sharp-jawed man who looked annoyed just to be present. When the judge entered, the silence was thick enough to choke on. It had been 6 weeks since the day Josh said, "Something's wrong," in the car. 6 weeks of phone calls, statements, tears, paperwork, and emotional landmines. And now, it all came down to this dot, not just about money, not just about justice, but about truth, about whether the world would believe what we knew in our hearts to be true, that love had been twisted into leverage, and that kindness had been mistaken for weakness. The prosecutor spoke first. She read from the documents, one by one, displayed the signatures, the time-stamped emails, the blurry but clear enough bank footage. And, finally, she played the audio from the night my mother confessed at our dinner table. In that recording, you could hear the clink of her wine glass against the wood. You could hear the amusement in her voice when she said, "The money's moved. The forms are legal." Lydia made sure of that. The court went still. Then they played Lydia's assistant's statement. The email. The line that shattered their fake narrative. "She's losing her memory anyway." Grandma gripped my hand at that line, her fingers tight. But her face stayed calm. She never flinched. And then it was my turn. I stood at the witness stand with my throat dry and heart pounding. Jordan had told me, "Be honest. Be emotional if you have to, but don't be vague. Let them know exactly what they tried to take." So I did. I told them about the childhood memories, the pancakes on Saturdays, the way Grandma still wrapped my birthday presents, even when we had no money, the smell of her perfume that lingered on every coat she ever loaned me. I told them about the day we found her alone in that kitchen, confused and surrounded by empty drawers and stolen dignity. I told them how it felt to hear my own mother smile while describing how she had stolen from the woman who gave her life. And then, finally, I said, "My grandmother gave this family more than money. She gave us history. She gave us roots. And they tried to rip that up and sell it for parts. I don't want revenge. I just want the truth to matter." The judge listened. And when she finally spoke, it was with a tone that silenced everyone instantly. "This court finds clear and convincing evidence of elder financial abuse, fraud, and criminal conspiracy. The power of attorney is hereby declared fraudulent. All financial transactions are to be reversed, assets returned, and a formal criminal investigation will proceed. Additionally, the court grants a permanent protective order for Mrs. June, restricting Janet M. and Lydia J. from all financial access and requiring all contact be supervised going forward." This was not merely greed. This was betrayal of the deepest kind, the kind that cloaks itself in family. Tears fell from Grandma's eyes. I didn't even realize I was crying too until Josh wiped my cheek with his thumb. We had won, but it wasn't over. The aftermath was messier than I expected. The story made the local paper. Granddaughter uncovers family fraud, saves grandmother's estate. It was shared on Facebook, then picked up by a national legal blog that covered elder abuse cases. My inbox filled with strangers telling me their own stories. Most were heartbreaking. Some were hopeful. One woman wrote, "Thank you for speaking. For those of us who couldn't." My mother and Lydia were both charged. Not jail, not yet, but heavy fines, probation, and a public black mark on their records. Lydia's accounting license was revoked. My mother's job at the real estate office was quietly dissolved. They had tried to bury the story, but you can't bury truth when it's been dragged into the sunlight. 1 week later, Grandma asked to visit the farmhouse. At first, I wasn't sure. I thought it might bring back too many painful memories. But she insisted. I need to see it one last time, to say goodbye. So we drove there, just me, her, and Josh. The air was crisp, the leaves beginning to change. Autumn had crept in while we were busy fighting a storm. The house stood quiet, still old, still worn, but somehow, lighter. We walked the creaky floors. Grandma touched the railing of the stairs, the windowsill where she used to grow basil. Then, in the kitchen, she turned to me. "I've decided to sell it." I blinked. "Really?" She nodded. "I'm going to donate half the money to a foundation that protects people like me. The rest, well, I'm going to live." She smiled, and for a moment I saw the girl she once was, bold, clever, full of fire. "I spent so many years taking care of others," she said. "It's time I take care of myself." I hugged her tightly. "Whatever you want, I'm with you." Josh was cleared by his firm 2 weeks later. They gave him a quiet apology and asked him to return. He said yes. I started journaling again. Not just about the case, but everything that came with it. The confusion, the heartbreak, the guilt. Writing made it real. But it also gave it shape. And one night, sitting in bed beside Josh, I said something I hadn't dared to think out loud yet. "I'm not ready to forgive her." Josh nodded slowly. "That's okay. I don't know if I ever will." "That's okay too." And in that moment, I realized forgiveness wasn't something I owed her. It was something I might one day give myself. A year later, Grandma stood beside me as I cut the ribbon on a small nonprofit office downtown. We'd started it together, the three of us, Josh, Grandma, and me. The June Foundation. Mission: protecting the vulnerable, amplifying the unheard, teaching others how to spot the signs. We had 3 cases within the first month. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And sometimes, when I'm locking up the office late at night, I think about that day in the car. The way Josh said, "Something's wrong." He saved us. Not just Grandma. Me too. Because I was about to walk into a party I thought was about love. But it wasn't a celebration. It was a setup. And if we hadn't turned around, I might have lost her forever. But instead, we started over. Together. And this time, no one would take that from us again.